This is Red Rum Blonde. Red Rum Blonde Babe for YouTube purposes. Okay, so hold on, guys. Oh no, that's not gonna work. What the hell was that? Let's flip the camera by accident. Okay, let me put that there. Okay, so you guys, so here's the thing. Okay, so I was doing a video and then my son came in and he's looking for a splint because apparently he hurt his finger, but he doesn't really need a splint, but I think it's just him trying to get attention, to be honest, right now. So anyway, I had to discuss that with him. So now I'm going to restart my video. So this is on Jeffrey MacDonald. And Jeffrey MacDonald, this was the other, so I'm just kind of going through like my true crime history, to be honest with you guys, okay? Like everything that has prompted me to be a true crime person, into true crime. That's what I'm trying to do videos on, because I think, you know, where you kind of get your inspiration from is kind of where things start off. And for me, it was the case of Adam Walsh, which I already just did, and then also what was the other one? Sorry. Adam Walsh, Jeffrey MacDonald, and I think there might have been Shonda Scherer. So I'll do another one on that one. But anyway, so we're just kind of revisiting the 80s with these crimes. This is actually 70s, so it doesn't fit in that category, but in any event, it is one that started me off. Like I said, I'm not one of these people that's going to come on here with like perfectly coiffed hair and makeup. That's just not me. So hopefully you don't mind my shiny forehead and all of that. But anyway, okay, so this is the case of Jeffrey MacDonald. And like I said, when I heard about Chris Watts, I was like, oh my God, this reminds me so much of Jeffrey MacDonald, because Jeffrey MacDonald was convicted. Well, I'm jumping ahead of myself. This is why I need another person to help me with this channel, because I get ahead of myself. Okay, so anyway, Chris Watts immediately made me think of Jeffrey MacDonald, and I'll tell you why. Okay, let's do it that way. Okay, so Jeffrey MacDonald was born in Jamaica, Queens, New York. So he's from New York. He went to Princeton University. He was on the football team at his high school. He was voted most likely to succeed and most popular. So he was, good looking, popular guy, really, smart. Obviously, he's becoming a doctor. And at the time, in high school, he met his high school sweetheart, which her name was Colette Stevenson. And Colette was a pretty girl, ambitious herself, but also, really, kind of just like a hometown girl, kind of. And they were in a high school, sweetheart type relationship, okay? So when Colette ended up getting pregnant, this is the problem with these kinds of guys, okay? Because what he did was he married her because he was under pressure to marry her from their families, because it was like, okay, you got her pregnant. Okay, so he got her pregnant just out of high school, and the families were like, okay, you need to marry her, because you can't, just get her pregnant and then, move on. You guys have to be married. So that's kind of how things went back then. If you get a woman pregnant or a girl pregnant, you're pretty much going to have to marry him. And that's how they used to do things back then. So they did get married. They had Kimberly, their first daughter, in April of 1964. And after that time, Jeffrey actually went to Princeton, because again, he was a pretty smart dude. They moved to Chicago, and then he was accepted to Northwestern Medical School. Kristen, their daughter, was born while he was in medical school in 1967. So Kristen was born in 1967. He graduated the following year in 1968, and then joined the military, or the U.S. Army, in July of 1969. All right, and then they moved to, they had another daughter. I'm sorry, she was born in 1967. Okay, so they had Kimberly in 1964, and then Kristen was born in 1967. Okay, so the same year Kristen was born, that's when he graduated. Then he joined the U.S. Army in 1969, and then that's when they moved to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And he was actually holding the rank of captain, so he was doing pretty good. And actually, he was accepted to a really elite group called the Special Forces. And I mean, you have to be of certain, prestige to be accepted in the Special Forces group. And that was in September of 1969. Okay. All right, so all of that happened, very young guy, very young family, having 2 kids, just graduating, being in the Special Forces. Okay, so the Special Forces really took a lot of his time. I mean, if you really want a lot of details on this story, you can read the book, Fatal Vision. It's really great. And I'll tell more about that in a little bit, but it tells in detail everything. I mean, I think his schedule is a little bit more involved than even that. I mean, it sounds like he's already pretty busy, right? He's a doctor and he's in Special Forces in the military. He was basically never home, guys. Never. I mean, he was on the go. And on top of it, this was a young military family, and I got to tell you, I was a military wife, and this is why this is kind of like close to home for me. Even though I never lived at Fort Bragg, I did live on a military base in a couple different military bases, and I spent months and months and months away from my husband at the time. And I got to tell you, it's almost like the military knows and contributes to infidelity. It's definitely something that's it's supposedly frowned upon, but it's very accepted. Let's just put it that way. Men cheat on their wives, and wives cheat on their husbands, to be honest with you. I mean, I wasn't in that category, but my ex-husband definitely, partook. Let's put it that way. Okay, so, cheating, military, they kind of go together. Sorry. It's kind of like a known fact. I'm not saying that everybody out there in the military is cheaters, but, it's something that really is hard to avoid because you spend multiple amount of time, months, away from your spouse. And, it's pressure. It's a lot of pressure. So anyway, back to their story. Okay, so as far as the murders go, okay, February 17th of 1970, on the morning hours, 3:42 a.m. to be exact, there's a call received by the Fort Bragg emergency phone line. The location is 544 Castle Drive, and that was the address where this all occurred. The military police officers arrived, reporting to a stabbing. Okay, so the caller actually indicated, which was Jeffrey McDonald, actually indicated that there was a stabbing. And you know what's really crazy, guys? Like, I think it would be so interesting to hear this 911 call, because now we have like the capability to listen to 911 calls and get all that information. And back then, they just don't have it. They don't have that information available now to listen to, because I think it would be really interesting to hear it. But anyway, and they responded to the home. It was closed and locked and dark on the inside, okay? The front door was completely locked. The back, however, there was no answer to the door, so they went around the back. Then they saw that the back screen door was closed, but it was unlocked, and the door was wide open. Back door wide open. Hold on. Back screen door was closed, and the back wide door. Okay, so if you've ever had a house with a door, there's like a door, and then there's a screen door. Okay, so the door itself was wide open. The screen door was closed. So you know how you have the screen door so bugs doesn't get in, but then you have another door on the outside that opens. If you want to have air come in. So that door was open, but the screen door was closed, but it was unlocked, which means that anyone could have come in and out of there, essentially. Okay, so that's how they arrived. They entered the home and then found Jeffrey's wife Colette and their daughters Kimberly and Kristen all dead in their bedrooms. So Colette was dead on the floor, and Kimberly and Kristen were each dead in their beds. Okay, keep in mind, guys, that Kimberly was 1967, 68, 69, 3 years old, and Kristen was 1.5 or 2. Okay, so Kristen was a baby. Okay, she had a bottle, and she was in a crib. when they found these kids. Okay, so it was very much like Chris Watts' thing with Celeste and Cece and Bella. But actually, instead of it being in bed, this Kristen baby was a baby. She was in a crib, okay, with a bottle, and they were dead. Okay, all dead. There are pictures of these events. I think the kids, I've never had an interest to see them, but I have seen pictures of Colette killed, and it's very graphic and terrible and awful. In any case, okay, so keep in mind also that Colette was pregnant, okay, very much like Chris Watts. So 5-year-old, okay, she was 5, I'm sorry. 5-year-old Kimberly was found in her bed. She'd been clubbed in the head and stabbed in the neck with a knife between 8 and 10 times. Okay, that's a lot of times, okay, to kill a little child that's only 5, a tiny little thing. 2-year-old, okay, so she was 2. I was kind of right there, 1.5. I'm guessing on some of this information, but now I'm reading the actual details. 2-year-old Kristen was found in her own bed, which was a crib, and she had been stabbed 33 times. 33 times, guys. A baby, too. Oh, Jesus. With a knife, and 15 times with an ice pick. So she was stabbed with 2 pieces of, what do they call that? 2 weapons. I'm sorry, 2 weapons. Okay, so keep in mind, okay, Kimberly was clubbed in the head and stabbed with the neck, and then, in the neck with a knife, okay, 8 and 10 times. And the baby guys, too. Who's she gonna hurt? I mean, who can she possibly hurt? She can't even defend herself. She's a fucking baby. 33 times with a knife and 15 times with an ice pick. Okay, so this child was stabbed with an ice pick on top of being stabbed. Oh, God. This is why this case has stuck with me, you guys. This was in the 70s, and I read this as a, young girl. And I just can't even tell you. Okay, so then Colette. Let's get to Colette. She was pregnant with her 3rd child, which was a son. Okay? Just like Chris Watts' case. This was her son, and she was lying on the floor of her bedroom. Okay, she'd been repeatedly clubbed. Both of her arms were broken. That's how bad this woman fought for her life and her unborn child and her babies. She was stabbed 21 times with an ice pick and 16 times with a knife. Okay, so McDonald's torn pajama top was draped upon her chest. Okay, so his top that he was wearing when he went to bed that night, supposedly, was laying on her chest. So he had, guys in the 70s used to wear stuff to bed. It's kind of funny to us now, because, like my man wears, like, a tank top and boxers, if he wears anything to sleep. But back then, I can even remember my dad wearing, like, a, pajama top that buttoned, and then pants. Like, my dad would wear stuff like that. So this is essentially what McDonald had on. And that actual shirt that he had on was draped over her to basically cover her. Okay? And this is how she was found. And on the headboard of her bed, get this, was the word pig written in blood. P-I-G, written in blood. Okay? This is the scene that these military officers are walking in on. They think it's a stabbing, a little domestic dispute. Maybe somebody got, somebody got a little, feisty that night, and they had a little stabbing, and, somebody's going to live. They're just going to need to get some, police and ambulance out there and take a report and all that. This is what these guys are thinking when they go into this scene. They're not thinking they're going to find an entire family mutilated and butchered to death, and then the words pig written on a headboard. Who's going to think that? Okay, so it gets even crazier, because guess what happened a couple months prior to this? An infamous, crazy case, the Manson murders, okay? Manson murders happened right around the same time, a couple months prior. Okay, so this is what McDonald said happened. Okay, he told investigators that on the evening of February 16th, he'd fallen asleep on the living room couch. Okay, he told investigators that he did so because Kristen had been in bed with Colette, and she had wet the side of the bed that he normally sleeps on. All right, we've all been there. I'm a mom. I've had kids pee the bed. It's not fun. You either change the sheets that night, which I would have done. I would have changed them that night, and done. I wouldn't just let whoever's peed on the bed just sleep in a pee bed. I mean, you wake everybody up and you clean everything up. You don't just leave pee there and then just go sleep on the couch. So whatever. But that's what he's saying. He was later awakened by Colette, and again, guys, Kristen is the baby. Okay, but later we're gonna find out that actually the older one, Kimberly, was the one that was peeing the bed. I think. I'll get back to that. But anyway, that's what he said. Kristen, the baby, wet the bed, and then that's why he went on the couch. Okay? And then later he said Colette and Kimberly were screaming, and that's what woke him up. Okay? So he's totally asleep on the couch, and then he wakes up to screaming. As he rose from the couch to go to their aid, he was attacked by 3 male intruders, 1 black and 2 white intruders. Okay? The 4th intruder, he said, was a white female with long blonde hair and wearing high-heeled boots and a white floppy hat that partially covered her face, and she had a lighted candle and chanted, "Acid is groovy, kill the pigs." This is what this unidentified floppy hat woman said. The 3 males attacked him with a club and an ice pick. During the struggle, he claimed that his pajama top was pulled over his head to his wrists, and then it was used to ward off thrusts. He used it to try to protect himself from getting stabbed with the ice pick. Eventually, he stated that he was overcome by his assailants and was knocked unconscious in the living room end of the hallway leading to the bedrooms. Okay, this is what he said happened, guys. Okay. This part of the description of what happened, it infuriates me. This is why, okay? I light candles all the time, okay? I light them all the time. I'm literally, every night I have a candle. Hold on, let me light my candle. Okay, so I have a ton of candles, okay? This is what and actually I'm just doing this because I blew them out because the scent was getting a little strong because I had a whole bunch going at one time. Then let me light them back up just so we can pretend that we're in this scene, okay? So he's saying this is this woman, okay, and I don't have a floppy hat, but let's just pretend I have a floppy hat on, and I'm going, "Acid is groovy, kill the pigs, acid is groovy, kill the pigs," okay? And I'm saying this over and over again. How long do you think that I'm going to be able to carry this through a scene of somebody getting stabbed with an ice pick and people screaming and, people writing in blood, and I have high-heeled boots on? How long do you think that I'm going to be able to sit there and carry this candle around while this activity is going on? Do you think that's really feasible? Because it sounds fucking crazy. Okay, it sounds totally fucking crazy and made up. It sounds like a movie or something that this idiot read or heard somewhere, and he's just repeating it to try to make it look like this is what happened. I mean, it sounds totally fucking asinine. Okay, this is why I had to talk about this story, because this part of it is just fucking stupid. Okay, regardless, let's just say it was 3 guys coming in there and they've got these weapons. The ice pick and the knives were all from the McDonald home, okay? That's the other thing you have to understand here. Who goes into a home, and you may be familiar with the Dudley Routier case and things like that, okay? Where she says these people came into her home and took the knives and did all this thing. Okay, so sometimes it happens. You're right. Sometimes I agree that sometimes that could happen. I'm not saying that I agree with her, but I'm just saying it's plausible that you could just have crazy people that just go into a home and okay, we're going to just attack some people. We're going to attack them. And let's just find whatever we can find to attack them. Okay. You have a baby, though. Okay. You have people that are literally a pregnant woman and children that are not going to fight you. So literally you just maybe stab them 2 or 3 times and you're done. You don't even have to overkill. These people were overkilled, okay? All three of the victims were overkilled. And guess who made it out alive? The one person who they should have knocked the fuck out. Okay. Okay, so with that being said, you've got a bitch with a floppy hat that's like this. Acid is groovy, kill the pigs. Acid is groovy, kill the pigs. And she's sitting there saying this while her, comrades are sitting there stabbing these people to death with ice picks and knives and everything else. Okay, multiple times. Screaming's going on. Blood's probably gushing from people's wounds. There's, writing going on with the, blood in the other room. I mean, it's just chaos, okay, is what it sounds like. I don't think in that kind of atmosphere that any candle is going to withstand that type of activity. It's going to be knocked out, and a fire's going to start in the fucking place. I don't know. I mean, just think about it. Anyway. Okay, so the Army CID, which is the Criminal Investigation Division, they're the ones that investigate crimes, okay, for the military. They didn't believe his story. No. Or his version of events. They just didn't think it was plausible, which is very smart on their part, because it doesn't sound plausible at all. They studied the evidence, and they found it not seem to support the story that he's telling. The living room, where he supposedly fought for his life against these three assailants that were armed with equipment from his home. They showed signs of a struggle and an overturned coffee table. Okay, so, and knocked over a flower plant. Okay, so with all of this madness going on, like I said, there's no knocked over candle burning things to the ground. There literally is just an overturned coffee table and a knocked over flower plant with like some soil and shit on the ground after all this chaos, madness. In addition to the lack of damage to the inside of the house, fibers from McDonald's torn pajama top were not found in the living room. So where he said this desperate struggle took place and he's being stabbed and knocked about and everything, there's nothing from his shirt there to say that this was what was going on. If you're fighting and shit is getting torn up, like this shirt, if somebody tore this shirt right now, there would be threads of this, on the ground somewhere. It would be like, it would be at least one or two threads. None of that was found. Instead, fibers from his top were found under Colette's body. Okay, so underneath where she lay to rest for her final moments of life on this earth, that's where they found the fibers from his top. And underneath her body, okay? And then in Kimberly and Kristen's rooms as well, okay? And the thing that's crazy about this is he said he never went into their rooms, but then I think at a later time he does say he went in to check their pulse, or their, to see if they were alive. So I think he kind of tried to cover his bases by saying he did go in there to check them to see if they were okay. Of course he would say that, because that would explain anything that he couldn't explain about what was in there that shouldn't be in there. So he's going to say, oh yeah, I went in to check them to see if they were alive, and they weren't. Okay, anyway. One fiber was found under Kristen's fingernail. So a fiber, which, fiber evidence now in 2019, it means nothing, okay? It means zero. So this would not have flown back then. Now. It did back then, but now it would not fly. That they found a fiber under her nail. That doesn't mean anything now. The murder weapons were found outside the back door. So these killers came in, did this fucking crazy ass, insane murder of these three innocent people, pregnant women and two babies, and then threw their murder weapons on the ground, right where they left out, supposedly, right where they ran out the back door. They threw them on the ground. It's so unbelievable, guys. They were a kitchen knife, an ice pick, and a 3-foot long piece of lumber. All three were determined to have come from the McDonald's house. Like I said, that was from the inside of the home.